In the dim glow of her massage parlor, Miss Vee glides towards the bed with a slow feminine grace. Her curves sway in perfect balance, wrapped tightly in a dress of deep red that clings to her body like a second skin, accentuating every alluring line of her figure. Her red luscious lips part in a sly smile as she nears her latest client, Donald, who lies entranced on the massage bed. Lost in the magic of her presence, she leans over him, her delicate fingers pressing into his shoulders in just the right places, her body moving with a mesmerizing sway as she massages his body, drawing him deeper into her world. Her perfume fills his senses, rich and intoxicating, and with each touch, she pulls him further under her spell. But little does Donald or any man in Benin City, Nigeria know that Miss Vee is no ordinary woman. She's a she-devil on a mission from hell, sent to steal souls and wreak havoc on the lives of men. Subscribe, sit back and watch this suspense-filled tale of Miss Vee, the ultimate seductress. It was a cool, breezy night in Benin City, and Mr. Osho, a retired civil servant, was walking down the street with an extra spring in his step. Ever since he heard whispers of Miss Vee's heavenly touch massage parlor, he's been more energetic than ever. He was a lonely widower, and things like this gets him excited. The massage shop only operates at night, and Miss Vee attends to one client per night. So you have to book ahead. A night massage at Miss Vee was apparently not just any massage. It was a blissful experience. His friend, Pa Ayodele, had told him he would leave feeling lighter than air and young as 20. Now, Mr. Osho was not one to spend money easily, but Miss Vee's reputation of giving the best massage in Benin City had stirred his curiosity, and he figured out why not try it once. After all, what else was he going to do with his retirement fund? He already bought all the socks, sandal, and bitter cola he needed for a lifetime. Entering Miss Vee's aesthetic, dimly lit massage parlor, he was greeted by the stunning lady herself, Miss Vee, a woman with hypnotic eyes and a smile that seemed both inviting and sinister. Her skin seemed to glow in a feminine curved body that was enchanting, and her voice was as smooth as melted butter. "Good evening, Mr. Osho," she whispered sweetly. "I have been expecting you. You are the one that called to book an appointment, right?" Mr. Osho chuckled, nodding his head like a moron and rubbing his hands together. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am." "Oh dear, call me Vivian, or V for short," she chuckled back, motioning him to a plush massage bed. "Let's make you feel like a legend, Mr. Osho." He lay down, and as she began to massage his shoulders, he felt an unusual warmth seep into his muscles. It was like a heat that relaxed and enchanted him at the same time. He let out a loud, satisfied sigh. "Ah, if this is what retirement has for me, then I'm the luckiest retiree." Miss Vee laughed. But what Mr. Osho did not know was that Miss Vee had a mission. She wasn't entirely human. She was a she-devil who feeds on the souls of unsuspecting men, draining their bank accounts and eventually their very lives. "Mr. Osho," she said in a soft, hypnotic voice, "would you like to extend your session a bit?" "Extend it, my dear. If this kind of enjoyment continues, I will give you my entire pension to you," Mr. Osho replied eagerly. She leaned closer, whispering, "Wouldn't you like to feel this forever?" And like a man in a trance, Mr. Osho immediately agreed, pulling out his phone to check his bank account, and he makes a huge transfer to her. Every session, Miss Vee's hands worked like magic, and each time, Mr. Osho happily handed her more and more of his retirement savings, and he was feeling younger and more alive after every massage. It wasn't long before his fellow retirees began to notice that he was dipping his hands into his pension fund. They tried to warn him, but he dismisses them. One evening, after another gloriously hypnotic massage, Miss Vee slipped in a hypnotic voice and said, Mr. Osho, you should just let me keep your ATM card. Think of it as a loyalty fund. And just like that, he handed her his debit card and gave her the password to the bank app on his phone. Finally, one night after a particularly enchanting massage session, Miss Vee looked at him with those seductive eyes and said, "Mr. Osho, it's time." "Time for what?" he mumbled, half asleep in a bliss of her massage. And she said, "It's time to give me your soul. Just sign this document and your soul is mine," she whispered. As if waking up from a dream, Mr. Ocho blinked himself back to reality, realizing something was terribly wrong. Miss Vee, soul. What in the world do you need my soul for?" he shouted. It was as if his consciousness came back fully restored, and luckily, he did not give her permission to possess his soul, because he quickly ran out of the massage shop, but unfortunately, his bank account was empty. Back home, he sat down with a heavy sigh. "Oh my goodness, I am done for," he muttered. "What have I done to myself?" Little did Mr. Osho know, he was not the only one that fell under Miss Vee's spell, and that her massage parlor is just getting started in destroying the lives of many men in Benin City. The night air in Benin City was thick and harsh, but Donald, a young bachelor with more swagger than sense, didn't mind the weather condition. He had one destination in mind: Miss Vee's Heavenly Touch massage parlor. Donald had been hooked from the first visit, and that was saying something. He was the kind of guy who rarely gave a woman more than one night stand before moving on. But Miss Vee, she was different, and it wasn't just her massage skill. Miss Vee was something out of a dream. Her skin was smooth, and her long dark hair cascaded over her shoulders like a veil. She had eyes that seemed to peer into your very soul, and lips so perfectly curved that you would swear they were drawn by a master artist. Luscious lips, specially designed for a kiss. As Donald approached the parlor, he ran into his friend, Oga Friday. "Oh, Donald, you dey go to that woman place again?" Oga Friday asked, shaking his head. "How many times will I warn you? That woman, Miss Vee, or whatever her name is too good to be true." Donald laughed and said, "Oga Friday, you no go understand. This massage isn't just any massage. It's pure bliss. I swear, after Miss Vee touches you, it's like you are born again." Oga Friday scoffed and said, "Born again, Abi? Or reborn in hellfire? Look, my brother, I have warned you. Be careful." Donald just waved him off, too mesmerized by thoughts of Miss Vee's alluring touch to listen to his friend's warning. He pushed open the door of the night massage shop and entered the dimly lit room where Miss Vee was waiting for him, her eyes gleaming in the candlelight. "My dear Donald," she called out, her voice as smooth as silk, "I have been waiting for you." And Donald said to her, "I couldn't stay away if I tried." As he guided him to the massage bed and began her magic, Donald let out a deep sigh of satisfaction. Her fingers worked their way into his muscle, and it felt like every worry, every concern was slipping away. But as she worked, Donald felt a strange sensation creeping up on him, a kind of dizziness that wasn't entirely pleasant. He shook it off, though focusing instead on Miss Vee's enchanting face as she leaned in closer to his ear. "Donald," she whispered, "wouldn't it be nice if this moment could last forever?" His head spun as he murmured, "Yes, forever." Then she said, "Why don't you share something personal with me? Like your bank details?" Her fingers traced down his spine. Donald chuckled, a little dizzy. "Oh, Miss Vee, you are too much." But she gave him a little smile, so seductive that he almost felt compelled to tell her everything. But a part of his senses were still working, so he did not hand over his bank details. When the session was over, Donald stumbled out of the parlor, feeling like he was floating, yet strangely uneasy. That night, he went home and fell into a deep sleep almost immediately. The nightmare started slowly. In the nightmare, Donald found himself back at the massage parlor, but everything was wrong. Miss Vee's face looked devilish with red horns on her head, and then her voice, which was usually soft and sweet, was now menacing, and she whispered, "Donald, you belong to me now." He woke up with a start, drenched in sweat, gasping for air. For the next few nights, the nightmares only grew worse. He would see Miss Vee's face in his dreams, smiling in that seductive, eerie way. Sometimes he would even see himself falling into a dark pit, her laughter echoing around him. He tried to brush it off as paranoia, but after several sleepless nights, he confided in Oga Friday, his friend. "My guy, I have been having these nightmares," Donald confessed. "Every time I close my eyes, I see Miss Vee dragging me into darkness." Oga Friday gave him a long hard look and replied, "I tell you say that woman no be ordinary person. She is not your average human being. Na she devil she be." But despite the fear gnawing at his insides, Donald couldn't resist going back to Miss Vee's massage parlor, even though he was experiencing hell every time he sleeps. One evening, he was driving down the road, heading home from work, and suddenly he saw a figure walking along the road, a tall woman with bald head and red horns. At first, he thought he was having those weird dreams again, right in the car. Then he thought it was Miss Vee, but he couldn't quite tell. The more he stared, the more her face seemed to shift to another woman entirely, almost melting into something monstrous, with red horns and eyes that bored into his soul. He was so entranced, so hypnotized, that he didn't even notice the truck pulling into his lane. By the time he did, it was too late. There was a loud crash. And then silence. News of Donald's tragic fatal accident spread quickly, and some said he was simply careless. But Oga Friday knew better. And as he shook his head sadly, he whispered, "I warned him. I warned Donald that Miss Vee is not an ordinary woman." But Miss Vee, untouched and unfazed, waited for her next client, her eyes glinting with dark amusement, for she knew that she would soon welcome another client, one who would bring more than just his aching back to her midnight massage parlor. In the same Benin city lives a man named Asika. Asika is a newly married young man who adored his beautiful wife, Adesuwa, and was thrilled about their first child on the way. But there was a catch. With Adesuwa in her early pregnancy and needing all the rest she could get, Asika was left with a bit of, let's say, pent-up energy. When he heard whispers about Miss Vee's magical massage parlor that seemed to have Benin City's men completely under her spell, Asika's curiosity got the better of him. He convinced himself he was going strictly for the massage and nothing more. After all, what harm could it do? The night he went over to the massage shop, Miss Vee welcomed him with a smile that could melt iron. She was breathtakingly beautiful, and every detail about her seemed designed to captivate. Asika found himself momentarily speechless. Good evening, Miss Vee," he stammered, rubbing his hands together nervously. "Welcome, Asika," she said, her voice a soft melody. "You are in good hands now. Just relax." He lay on the massage table, trying to keep his mind focused on his wife Adesuwa and the coming baby. But Miss Vee's touch was like magic. With each stroke, she erased all thoughts of loyalty, responsibility, and good sense. His mind was blank, except for one desire, to stay in this trance forever. "So, Asika," Miss Vee said, as she walked along his back, "you look like a man of substance." "Yes, ma'am. I try, he mumbled, slightly dazed by her touch. Her fingers traced along his shoulders as she leaned in close, her breath warm against his ear. "Well, I am sure a young, successful man like you can support this my business with $100,000. Asika jolted, suddenly snapping back to reality. Dollars? 100,000? I am not that successful, ma. All my money is in naira. Miss Vee chuckled, trying to mask her frustration. "Oh, Asika, don't be silly. We are friends here. Please call me Miss Vee." Asika scratched his head, feeling an odd buzzing sensation in his brain as he struggled to concentrate on Miss Vee, because he kept seeing Adesuwa's face in his mind. His wife's gentle smile kept bringing him back to reality. Back at home, Adesuwa, who was indeed a powerful woman of faith, felt something off about her husband's energy. It was as if a shadow had fallen over their love. Her eyes narrowed with suspicion, and she dropped to her knees instantly and started praying fervently. "Lord, wherever my husband is, cover him in your light. Let no evil touch his heart or lead him astray." Meanwhile, Asika, still under Miss Vee's seductive spell, felt a sudden jolt, a warm glow filling his chest. He blinked and shook his head, snapping out of Miss Vee's trance, and his spiritual eyes were opened. Suddenly, Miss Vee's beautiful face looked different. Her eyes were no longer seductive. They were hot red, and red horns appeared on her head. She was no ordinary woman. She was something else. Miss Vee, what are you?" Asika asked, stumbling backward off the massage table. Miss Vee, suspecting that Asika could see her for what she is, attacked him, slashing at his face with her long nails. But Asika's wife, miles away, was still on her knees, praying with all her might. She felt a powerful energy filling the room, and she shouted, "Every evil attack towards my husband, burn in holy fire." Just then, Miss Vee's massage parlor began to shake. A gust of wind blew through the room, and candles flickered wildly. Miss Vee gasped as the walls of her beloved Heavenly Touch massage parlor began to crack, flames leaking up from the floorboards. Asika used the little chance he had to run away quickly from the collapsing building. Miss Vee, still trapped in the shop, screamed, her alluring form shifted into something monstrous for all to see. People gathered around and watched her burn. The beautiful seductress was gone, replaced by a terrifying monster with red eyes that burned with rage and hatred. But the flames consuming her massage parlor had a life of their own. The fire kept burning rapidly. The entire place was going up in smoke, and in a flash, Miss Vee vanished with the smoke. Asika forgot his car in front of the massage parlor and kept running until he got home. He was panting, covered in sweat, and feeling more grateful than ever to see his beautiful, loyal wife. Adesuwa took one look at him and raised an eyebrow. "So how was your day, my husband?" she asked. Asika dropped to his knees and replied, "My darling wife, I have a confession." He then went ahead and narrated all that happened that evening. When he finished, he added, "I swear I'll never go near another massage parlor as long as I live. That woman, Miss Vee, was no ordinary woman. She was a she-devil." Adesua smiled with pain in her eyes and said, "Well, thank you for being honest, but I must confess, I am disappointed in you." "My baby, I am so sorry," Asika said sincerely. Adesua looked hard at her husband and said, "My spirit was not at rest earlier this evening, so I got on my knees and prayed for you. And there is nothing our Lord cannot do. I am grateful he has spared your life, so our baby will have someone to call Daddy." And with tears in their eyes, they promised each other a love unwavering and eternal.